Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Mysteries and Disappearances video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's continue that book, Vanished, Mysterious Disappearances by David Clark, once again focusing on Chapter 1, but this time involving Part 3, a whole new segment associated with a gentleman by the name of Raymond Malfraise. So the other day we just concluded the segment tied to Colonel Fawcett. Here, though, it's going to be a brand new person. Let's go ahead and let's talk about their disappearance here. And then it'll be interesting to see if this is something that I'll feature in another new video, maybe an idea for a separate video altogether. But as always, I'd love to hear what your own thoughts and opinions are on this too. So let's go ahead and let's do that part here. And once again, it's from the chapter 1 called Into the Unknown. So the segment is called Raymond Malfraise. Colonel Fawcett's disappearance captured the public imagination and commanded attention on a worldwide scale for more than 30 years. Yet there are others who have been swallowed up in the vastness of the South American jungles and whose disappearances have gone relatively unnoticed, as in the case of the Frenchman Raymond Malfraise. At the time of his disappearance in 1950, at the age of 23, Malfraise was a seasoned explorer, having undertaken much exploration in the Mato Grosso. Although he traveled alone, he knew the jungle, its dangers, and how to deal with them. Having survived the menace of the Mato Grosso, which had defeated Fawcett 25 years before, Malfraise finally succumbed to the rigors of French Guiana, from where he had set out with the intention of crossing the Tumuk-Humak Mountains and making his way through unexplored territory to the Amazon. Raymond's father, Edgar, first learned of his son's disappearance in a newspaper report of July 1950, which spoke of Raymond's abandoned kit on the banks of the river Tampuri in French Guiana, and of the belief that he had been the victim of Oyaricolet Indians. Edgar Malfraise beggared himself in undertaking mission after mission to search for his son, convinced that he must still be alive, held captive by a tribe of Indians. During the course of his searches, Edgar Malfraise did encounter several white men. One of these was a Mr. Greens, described as thin, emaciated, and stripped to the waist, with a wide goatee beard and probably around 60. Greens was an American Salvation Army missionary who carried a portable record player and a collection of records in an Indian dialect which told the story of the Gospels. Edgar Malfraise's first expedition in 1952 ended with the loss of most of his equipment and all of his money in a boating accident on the River Moroni's Cotica Rapids. Although in some respects a success, he had traveled from the Amazon to French Guiana across the Tumuk-Humics, he had failed to achieve his objective, which was to find his son. For his second expedition a year later, Malfraise aimed to follow the Amazon to Alencour and then turn inland to Bonfortour, where it was alleged a white man fitting Raymond's description had been seen, but this attempt met with little better luck than the first. Reliable guides were hard to come by, and funds for equipment and necessary expenses were low. Many more expeditions followed, during the course of which Malfraise managed to ascertain that in January 1950, Raymond had set out from the Grand Claude to float down the river Tamure by raft to Bienvenue. When his raft broke up on the rocks, Raymond, wearing only shorts with a small bag containing a knife, compass, notebook, pencil, and matches, made an ill-advised attempt to reach Bienvenue by swimming. But he had not allowed for the rapids on the Tamure, and to avoid them, he had been forced to make a detour on foot through the jungle. It was this decision that proved his undoing. Unable to return upstream because of the current, he was thrown on the mercy of the jungle, teeming with scorpions, poisonous spiders, and vampire bats. In the vicinity of his son's last known campsite, Edgar Malfraise found a rusty, headless screwdriver and a small saucepan without a handle, scant rewards for all of his efforts. Edgar remained convinced that his son was still alive. He believed, despite all evidence to the contrary, that Raymond had survived, battling through the worst of his ordeal to be taken captive and held prisoner by an unspecified band of semi-nomadic tribesmen. Indeed, from time to time, there would come to light vague stories of a white man living forcibly among Indians, deep within the interior. In response to One Such Tale, Edgar planned an expedition into Dutch Guyana. Before he started out, it became apparent that the story was a hoax. The perpetrator helped to profit by acting as a paid guide to Malfraise. It speaks much for his growing state of desperation at this time that, despite uncovering the plot, Malfraise still decided to explore the region. He carried with him photographs of Raymond, which he would press on passing natives in the hope that they would recognize the likeness. Edgar was the first white man many of them had ever seen. The sight of a white man of any description would have etched itself deeply on their memories. Edgar even took to carving his name on tree trunks in case Raymond happened by. The heroic search had become a magnificent obsession. Edgar Malfraise never found his missing son. So let's go ahead and let's end it here for this segment. Again, this is going to be chapter 1, part 3 of the Into the Unknown, but this time talking about Raymond Francis. So let's go ahead and let's feature that here. For starters, what a sad story all around. Kind of a little bit more of, if you fight with the bull, eventually you get the horns. Because unfortunately, here you have this situation where Raymond was someone that was liking to play with danger. He was there apparently like as a seasoned explorer, but your luck only goes so far. So there he was traveling alone throughout the jungle. It's bad enough if you go with a crew, but imagine just going by yourself. And then in this case, he's going to areas that he's exploring for the first time. Can you imagine the places that he would have to get through, not knowing essentially what danger he would run into, and nobody would know that he's there other than himself. And that's let alone if he runs into anyone else that's more on the dangerous side. So there he was at the age of 23, a young age, going into a location, into the Amazon, and then apparently never being seen again. And then there is his poor father, Edgar. Man, that really touched the heart right there. Once his son disappeared, finding out no less than a newspaper report, the poor guy just pretty much spent the rest of his life on some kind of abandoned hope, like the idea that he would find his son. Maybe not this trip, maybe not the next one, but it has to be the one after that, right? Like he was always with the idea that his son is still alive, probably held captive by, according to him, some tribe of Indians, and then using whatever earnings he had, trip after trip, to try to find his son. And anything that came about, even far-fetched stories, as the chapter alluded to, he would still follow those and then be trying to find something related to his son. The heart-stringing pull part was the last thing he saw of his son ever was that campsite. He found this campsite and all he saw was basically a rusty, headless screwdriver and a saucepan that did not have the handle. That's all he has. That's all he has now of his son. And I'm sure even at this age, he's probably deceased by now, but he basically went to his, if he did, he's probably basically went to his grave, again, hoping that his son is probably still out there and is just one person away, like one trip away. What I think happened to his son, most likely the easiest answer is the one that's the truest. He just met something ill out there in the jungle. Maybe he fractured his legs somewhere, falling somewhere and then just couldn't get out. Or maybe those rapids, the ones that the chapter was alluding to, he fell into those chapters or did raptors and then didn't actually gauge their severity associated with it. And so those rivers essentially pushed him away or drowned him. Or maybe he did run into some bad people out there, or maybe even some animals. And again, nobody would know. There's not a single trace of him other than those artifacts that the father found, but nothing else associated with him. It's a sad story, but at the same time, I'm thinking in my head, why did this guy do it? Like, why would somebody enjoy doing along those lines? If he's an explorer and he's doing it just for fun, even worse, because you're playing with danger. And like I said at the beginning, if you play with the bull or enough times, eventually you'll get the horn. And it looks like what happened to that guy. But let me know what you guys think. Another sad story here. This is one of those I may just make it into a separate video afterward, considering the tragedy associated with this story and the the thing involving the father and everything that he had to go through, years and years of just trying to find the status of his son and not have anything even close come to any fruition. Just a sad story all around. But let me know what you guys think. Anybody there from the local area, maybe there, that knows more stories associated with Raymond Malfries, which, by the way, that's the other thing too that I wanted to mention. I like how the chapter alluded to, and basically what my channel follows, there's a lot of popular stories, and then there's what it's described as relatively unnoticed. This was one of those stories. Raymond Malfries, nobody would ever know of him if it wasn't for this chapter in this book here, and here I am sharing with it for everyone here as well. So it's a great way to do so, to explore the smaller stories, the kind of stuff that I love doing within my channel. All right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.